Hi creatives, welcome to our live session with designers and illustrators all over the world. Today our guest is Joanna Becher. She is an owner of her brand and she based in France. Joanna actually ran this brand after working as a editorial designer for several years in Vanity Fair magazine, and it's very interesting to know made, how she did this switch from editorial designer to an owner of her own brand, which produced different accessories and very fun and bold pins. So today I will ask you all about how to make this transition, because it's really a very actually bold decision to run your own art business and to sell pins and other accessories. Also, we will talk about income and other ways to grow your business. Joanna, if you're here online, please send me the request so I can join you to this interview. And you're welcome to drop any questions in the comments. And if you want to get all the highlights of these interviews with designers, illustrators, and artists, you're very welcome to subscribe to the newsletters. It's totally free. Then you will get all the tips on how to develop your creative style, how to run your art business in your email. And I am looking for Joanna's request. Can see her here. Okay, I will send her the invitation. Joanna Becher. So Joanna. Sorry, give me 1 minute and please tell me if you can hear me well. And as always, if you want to ask, oh, I
Hi,
see. Hi, hello, how are
hi.
you?
Good. How are you?
Fine too, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for finding the time.
Yeah, that's all good.
Uh, can you? I already introduced you as a in the past editorial
Hmm.
designer who was working for Vanity Fair,
Yep.
and now you're the owner of your own brand and your own business.
Hmm.
Can you please tell us a little bit about your artistic background and your work in such a big magazine? Was it a
Yeah.
French
Yeah.
Vanity Fair?
It was the French version of Vanity Fair. So actually, what happened is, I graduated from a university in New York in 2011. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. My visa was only going to last for a year after I graduated. So I had to find a job fast. And I started out with packaging. And then I realized packaging was a lot of math. And I was like, oh no, I went into art. Like, I don't like math. So after like 3 months, I got fired because I hated the job so much. And my boss was expecting a lot. He was asking me to do stuff for work on weekends. And I was like, no, like I didn't like it that much. And so I kind of stumbled into editorial design by accident because I was so panicked. I only had like 7 months left on my visa, and I was like, I need to find a job now. So I applied to pretty much everything I could find, and I ended up in like a very small magazine in Soho. And I got the job. It was like 4 days a week, and I was the only graphic designer there. So there was an art director, and I came in, and like 2 weeks after I got there, he left. So I was the only designer at the at the magazine. I was like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing. Um, and it took me like a month and a half to realize that I didn't have to stick to what the art director had set up in terms of layout. And I started having fun, and I was like, okay, this is actually great. So I learned everything on the spot, and I kind of had to improvise on like how to do things because I had never worked for a magazine before. So mind you, this was a magazine that was like in like an underground floor of a store. So but it was a lot of fun, and I was working with the creative director who was doing like setting up photo shoots and stuff, and it was actually like I learned a lot, and I got to go on photo shoots and like edit. I was also editing photos. I was doing pretty much everything. um and I got to polish my skills as an editorial designer without actually like learning from anyone other than just looking at other publications. And so after like while I was there, I really like I got to love doing editorial design. It's like I want to work for bigger companies. I was like I really want to work for Hearst magazines, which they do Oprah. They like because I had interned before that for the Oprah magazine, but it was not a fun internship. It was mostly boring stuff. And I didn't know how to use InDesign, so I learned there, which was great. um, but yeah, so I worked there, and then when I got at the end of my visa, I had to come back to Paris. And before I came back, I was just throwing resumes around in France to work for major publications, so including Condé Nast, which has Vanity Fair. And I had my eye set on GQ because I loved the design and like the layouts they use, and I was a big fan of Esquire. I really wanted to work for Esquire in New York. I did some like a little bit of freelance there, but it was on the iPad version, so it was a lot like less fun than print. Print is always like really fun. It's great to have like the magazine and you're like, oh, I made this, and keep it and have it in, like in your hands. So I actually sent my resume over to the art director at GQ in Paris, and he transferred my resume over to the art director at Vanity Fair France, who hadn't launched yet. So the magazine was still not out. They were actually planning a release for a few months later, and they were looking for for a graphic designer. And I was really lucky to get like an email from the art director. I interviewed and I got the job pretty much right away. And I got to work on they're called number zeros. So they're um, like issues of the magazine that don't come out, but that you make so that you get like, and that you show to focus groups to get feedback and see like how things, like if things need to be changed, if the layouts are good, if the fonts are good, if everything's clear. So that was also that was new. But it was really great. And yeah, and then I ended up working there for 5 years, which was a while. But it was great, and I got to do a lot, like working with like the photo department, the ad department, and everyone was so nice. And the structures in France are a lot smaller than the structure, like than the companies in the US. So we only had like the team was just art director, assistant art director, and then me, and we would just take care of the whole magazine. That was just like a team of three, so very small compared to the US, and also not as much possibility to get promoted and things like that, because here they look at your age a lot. I don't know how it works for like for you. But like France kind of sucks on that, like on that end. The US is a lot more open to like promoting you and giving you opportunities, and which is better, especially if you're young. But yeah, so it was great. Honestly, working for a magazine was good because I didn't like repetitive work. So I initially thought I might want to work on branding, but working on the same project for over 2 months, just like you get sick of it, kinda. I liked that in a magazine, like things change every three weeks. You get like whole new subjects and like whole new ways to lay out pages, even if you have a chart to follow. So if anyone is a designer and doesn't like repetitive work, honestly, you would think editorial is repetitive, but it's really not, just because like especially for a magazine like Vanity Fair, where they had a lot of good investigative stories and like articles. So it was like on top of that was really interesting. Like you had like, you know, read the articles, do the layout that matches, and we had a lot of fun since it was the beginning of the magazine. um, we had a lot of fun with the other art directors to like coming up with ways to lay out the pages and do like photo collages and things like that, and hire illustrators. um, so you definitely get to do a lot, and learn a lot on about like how like what to use, and it's a really good, I think, job if like you're a designer and you like print. Definitely recommend that.
It sounds like that you have a great, huge experience in editorial field. What made you want to switch
Yeah.
to make this transition from
Well,
editorial to?
after a while, when so as I said, when you're in France, you don't get as much opportunity to be promoted. And since the team was only like 3 people and it was just like designer, art director, and associate art director, it's like it was just not enough for me anymore. And I was giving 200% of like my creative self to, I just, I loved my job. And it's just, I ended up resenting it because there was no evolution. And I felt very, very cornered. Um, and I needed, like, after maybe 3 or 4 years, I started to want to do something else. And just, I had a lot of creative energy that was just not um, being used at my job anymore. And I just like, I needed an outlet. And so I started, it was the beginning of like fun Instagram, you know, when you could post like, it was just photos, and I was posting like a lot of lettering and having a lot of fun with that. And um and I was just enjoying, you know, sharing and like improving my skill as a hand lettering artist, because I had never done hand lettering before. So I was just drawing a lot and doodling, and I ended up kind of getting bored at my job, because, like, you know, at some point when you just give all you have and you get nothing in return, it's a little frustrating. um so yeah, honestly, I didn't know I was going to start a business. Just, I innocently started out like, you know, I'm a print designer. I'd love to have the like things in my hands. And I was like, oh, pins are popular. What if I made a pin with my drawing and then I could have it in my hands and wear it? That's so cool. And so I started out, like, it was a very random start. I think the first things I made were a print with like gold foil and a sticker and and an evil eye pin that was kind of geometric. Um, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. Let me open an Etsy shop. And now I think I had a big cartel back then. But yeah, it was a good little distraction from work. That
Uh, so already starting from the very first set of pins that you created, the very first pin, you started to sell it, is it?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I first I'm trying to remember because it's been a while. uh, I made the 3 things I mentioned, and yeah, I think Instagram back then. Let's let us go back. Was not this hard. It's like as long as you posted, like added enough hashtags, like you were good. And I was getting enough follows and likes, and I was being very diligent. So back then, I remember spending like a lot of time on Instagram just commenting on like other people's posts and liking, and it was like 3 hours a day. I remember a lot of people were like, "Oh, how did you get so many followers?" And so back then, I maybe had 10,000 followers. I was like, "Well, I'm just like trying to be present on the platform." And it was much easier um, to just get views and therefore sales. Oops.
But at that moment, you still worked
Yeah,
at the magazine.
yeah.
And
So that was in
when
2016, and I
Mhm.
quit in 2017.
And when did you decide to quit and to start your brand?
Uh, well, after like a few months where I noticed that my sales were picking up and I wanted to do more and I was getting distracted at work and like work was just not fun anymore. I just uh I just felt like okay.
Does it mean that at some stage, at that moment, income from selling your pins and other stickers and other stuffs was the same level as your
No,
salary?
it was not. However, I had an employment that came in because I negotiated with the company because they knew I wanted to leave, and so I negotiated to leave and like be able to get unemployment for a year. So I had like that for a year, which helped tremendously. Um, and before I started making any products, I had some savings. I didn't have that many savings. I think I had like 4 grand that I had put aside from my job and that I was using just to make products and so yeah, but definitely no, I was not making like a salary from my from my creations right away. It took a while.
Wasn't it frustrating? Because scary to just quit the job and start running your own business, selling
I
pins
mean,
and accessories.
I think I'm a I'm a person who knows like I was pretty sure of what I was doing. My family was not on board. They're like, "Oh my god, you're gonna sell pins? You're gonna be broke." Okay. But yeah, so everyone thought I was stupid. Like, oh, you're leaving a full-time job with benefits to start your own business? You're crazy. Uh, so yeah, I everyone thought I was insane and judged me for quitting a full-time job that was a good job at a good magazine with a good reputation and that it was just security ultimately. But I like my the way that I had of arguing that was like I have been alive for I don't know how old I was back then, like 20 something years. I have never made a terrible decision until now. Like I'm pretty sure of this. You know, you should trust me. It's gonna be fine. Uh,
And and how it was the first month running your business without a day job? How was that?
um, it was okay. Honestly, back then I remember it's that's I don't recommend this now. Like I was getting most of all my sales from social media because again, Instagram was just the reach was so much better and all the products I was selling with Instagram, which was great. So I didn't have to research that much into like marketing and things like that. Um, but yeah, it's the first. I think I was just pretty chill the first month. Well, after I quit my job, I went on a trip with my best friend to Japan. I was like, okay, let's let's just celebrate. And then after that, I started like doing this full time, but it was still I was still getting my footing, and I mean, honestly, the fact that I had my the unemployment pay was just a lifesaver. Yeah.
Yeah, but that last for 1 year, and when it ended, you already were, felt more or less confident in your income from the pins, from the
Yeah,
exercise, or
I think I don't think I was making as much as what I was making. So to be honest, the pay was not that great at this magazine. And I think still now like it's France. The just the pay here isn't amazing as a designer. At least like I was just a regular designer. I wasn't an art director or anything, and I know the associate art director's salary, and it wasn't like it's not something that you that was that high. Like at least what knowing the salaries that people were getting paid in New York, but it's completely different. And so Like when I came back here, it was an adjustment. When I came back from New York first, I had forgotten most of my French. I had no idea how to, like, any of the design terms. I didn't know them in French. People thought I was just like showing off. I was like, no, I don't know. I don't know how to say screen printing. I don't know. Like, I used all the software in English. Like, I don't know any of it. But yeah, so I knew the salaries in the US, and the salaries in France are definitely not as high. But back then, so when I had the chance when I moved back to, so I was living alone in New York, and I moved back in with my parents when I came back. So that gave me the opportunity to put some, like, a lot of money on the side. Um, but yeah, I mean, after a year, it was definitely better, and it's just, it always takes a bit. I think when you start a small business, you have to be aware that the income is not going to be steady every month. I definitely don't regret anything, and I did some freelance also, which helped. For my old art directors who sometimes needed a hand with other magazines or just like projects. So that helped. I think that's how I made things, like, I balanced everything out. Um, but yeah, it don't if you do start a small business, I think you can't expect to make the big bucks right away. It's always going to take some time. Um, and it's not going to be a steady income every month for sure.
Can you please share some tips to designers or artists who wants to run their own business? So what are the main things they should think about to plan? What is
Uh,
important?
Planning is important because I know a lot of people don't plan. Planning is definitely important, and having like a backup plan or having savings is just definitely a must. And I think mostly knowing what kind of audience you're trying to reach. I went into this knowing I wanted to make fun things to wear and just wearable art. I picked pins originally because pins are cheap to mail, and that was really good. And they don't take that much space to store either. So it was a great starting point. You make, I think they're also they it was also easier to do pins and like some stickers than just stickers, because for stickers you have to sell a lot more to get a profit since they're cheaper. Um, so pins was definitely like a really good starting point. I wanted to make T-shirts and everything, but I was like, oh my god, where am I going to store this? It's too much space. And then how am I going to mail it out? Like, are people going to pay this much to have a T-shirt like sent to them from me? They don't know me. So I think establishing your brand is a big thing, and knowing what kind of audience you're trying to reach, and not overspending either. Because I know, like, I get carried away. I want to try and make all the new things. It's like, oh, I want to do iPad cases. I want to do iPhone cases. I want to like, oh, a new thing. Let me try this. And then I kind of sometimes I rush into things, and it turns out horribly, and I'm like, oh no, I wasted all this money because I rushed and I did not think things through. So yes, definitely thinking things through. And I had some help back then. I was talking to a lot of other small business owners who were doing pins. At first, when I did pins, I used middlemen. I think I was doing. I ordered my first pins from Made by Cooper, and my first order, I think I was kind of happy with it. But then I had no idea they were middlemen. They don't say that to you. So I thought they were made in England because they were shipping from England. I was like, okay, that's great. That's exactly what I want. I want things made in in Europe. That's awesome. But no. So I found that I was like, kind of bummed out. And then the price per piece is expensive since they're a middleman. And then I stopped using them after like the third time, because when you reorder the same design, it's not cheaper like a regular manufacturer. Because with a regular manufacturer, you pay for the mold, and then you pay for each pin, each piece. And so once you have paid the mold, which is the most expensive thing, when you reorder, you only pay the price of the pins, which is, obviously cheaper. And they were just charging a lot, but they did quality checks and things, so it balanced out. But I reordered a design, and the posts came out really long, like long to the point where I would put them on my t-shirt and it would just hang like face down. I was like, what the hell? And I contacted them, and it was a whole big thing. They're like, no, our pins are fine. It's you didn't say you wanted regular posts. I'm like, what? Why would I want, like, this is a reorder? Why would I? So I was like, okay, I'm done with you guys. They did replace the pins after I argued and like yelled quite a bit, because I was I was really upset. Um, but yeah, I think it's pins were an easy way to start, but you have to have like having guidance is great. So I think you shouldn't be afraid to ask other creators on like social media. Some of them won't want to say anything, others will be like really nice. um I see a lot of videos where people are like, oh no, you're not sharing your manufacturer, boo, you're a bad person, you're gatekeeping. uh yes and no. Yes and no. We like I talked about that with a few people. So the when I stopped using Made by Cooper, a creator friend of mine gave me her manufacturer, and he was in China, and I was really grateful. And it turned out like it was cheaper and the quality was good, and I was really happy. And the thing is, I've been asked countless times to give out manufacturers. So there are a few things people should know about that. First, my manufacturer is not necessarily going to suit your needs. Then I have some deals going with certain manufacturers where they can do a certain quantity for me that they won't do for you, because like either I've been working with them for a long time, like we have a relationship. And also there was a time where manufacturers were shared a lot, which means that they had a lot of clients. I'm sorry, my dog is is sleeping and she's dreaming.
Yeah,
um,
that's cute.
um, so when manufacturers were shared, what happened is they were getting backed up. And since they were getting backed up, the production delays got really long and the quality went down. And so I think I know a lot of creators, when I don't want to show their manufacturer, aside the fact that it took them a while to find, because like through trial and error, I have like I think 6 or 7 or 8 manufacturers that I know that I've tried. I go on Alibaba. I have samples made, like always have samples made. And it's just sometimes they send you really bad quality stuff and you have to deal with it. And it's money spent. So I think like there's gatekeeping, but there's also like, no, I worked really hard for this. But most of the time, I think some creators like help. They give out like where they get their stuff made, but it depends to what extent. Like that first manufacturer I mentioned that my friend had given me is like, I've given that info to quite a few people. um but I think ultimately, never be afraid to ask, as long as you're asking nicely and not requesting like you're owed anything. It's always okay. um
And now, do you produce it in Europe? So,
no,
right?
I wish. So the thing is, you can't produce pins in Europe because of the regulations. But I've been using, I use a few factories, but my main factory is one that I've been using since I started, that like on and off, because sometimes they switch. Factory factories don't always use the same, um, either workers, or I think sometimes they also send the pins out to be made when they have issues. So, and they also change, like if you want to do glitter and pins, sometimes like the things differ from your first order. So sometimes I would change up my factory because of that. But then you have to pay for the molds again, which is not fun. but yeah, I switch up every once in a while. Like I used to have a factory that was really great and the prices were affordable, and my rep was adorable, but then she left and it all went to hell. Like my pins were not on time. Like after 6 months I still hadn't received anything even though I had paid. I was like sending emails every day and yelling, and like when they arrived they were all like flawed. It was, yeah. So it's that's the advantages of having a middleman. You don't have to deal with that because they deal with that for you. You also pay more. I'd say like 50% more. Um, like, so if you can afford it, I think it's a good thing to try. And also if you never made pins. Um, but like if you have the mental capacity to deal with like emailing a manufacturer back and forth and dealing with issues, I also like it's not issues all the time. So I think as long as you know, like you can handle some issues some of the time, and you have a manufacturer who's not horrible, because I have had manufacturers like, oh, your pins are flawed. Send me a photo of each of the flawed pins, and then email them to me. And I have had some that are like, oh, how many? 30. Okay, I'll replace them, and like you don't have to send a photo. I I'm always very honest though, and, and when I do that, I'm like, I'm not gonna say there's 60 flawed ones if there's only 30, because I know it's just, you know, it's jobs are hard, and let's not take advantage of people, but yeah, just taking a photo of every single. But sometimes it's like, well, you don't see the flaw, but I see it because on the camera it doesn't look the same. But yeah, it's I think it's just a skill to learn, which you kind of need for like in the long run if you're going to do any other products. Dealing with the manufacturer directly is important, I think.
Yeah, thank you. And so, if an artist running a business and already managed this things connected with producing any pins or something else, is it the first step or not? And what are the next? What is next? Maybe it's important to show some mock-ups to
Oh,
audience and
oh
check if there are
yeah.
any.
So it depends. If you don't have the funds. So this is why at first I saved up, because I didn't want to have to take pre-orders, because pre-orders make me anxious. Like having people's money and not sending them their item right away, I don't like doing that. I've done a few pre-orders. I've done some this summer, and I hate it every time. It's like it's very stressful. I'm like, oh my God, I have all these clients' money, um and they don't have their item, and if anything goes on, like it's very, like, to me, I know it's some people don't mind, like some businesses are okay with that, but since I handle shipping and everything, it's I'm like, no, I don't like that. I like to have the thing, you pay me, and I send you the thing, and that's it. um but like once that's why I saved up. If you haven't saved up, you can of course do pre-orders for items and do mock-ups. um I think I had done a pre-order actually once, back in 2017 for a ghost, my sad ghost pin, which went good. So once, this is great if you don't have the funds, because usually with a few orders, you can manage to pay your manufacturer and get the pins produced, and then you'll have extra. So technically, you don't have any money out of pocket, which is helpful. But then after that, yeah, you have to start marketing and just showing your things, which is really hard, and especially nowadays, with Instagram being hard, and you have to be everywhere and do everything and do like film the content and plan. And I have ADHD, so I am like the worst at all of this, honestly. And I'm not doing, like, when you actually have your own brand, you should be using other like things other than Instagram to advertise, like Google ads, and having a newsletter, and you just, ads in general. I'm mostly using Instagram, which is not good. I don't recommend anyone do what I do, because it's very stressful. Like if I don't post for a few days, I don't get sales at all. Like I have weeks where I have zero sales. and it doesn't feel great. It's a little like I feel the pressure. So yeah, definitely having like a plan, but it means that if you're an artist and you want to start with your small biz, you have to be open to learn about marketing and, like all the market research and, just going online, see what other people are doing as well, see what works. Like if you have an idea, see if it already exists, and how other people are marketing it. I remember doing a lot of research when I started out. I was ordering a lot from other small businesses to see like how they package their items, like how things would come, and it really helped me to create my own style and my own way of doing things. So don't be scared of just trying things out as well, and researching. Just researching is a big thing.
Um, as I see, as you told, you sold or sell now your pins also on Etsy, and you have your own website, maybe some other websites, shops online where you sell it. Can you compare and say which one is better? What to choose? What to choose? What
What
is the difference?
is? I don't think there is one that you should choose over the other one. There are advantages and disadvantages to both. So Shopify is amazing. I've been using it for years. When I first opened my shop, I had Big Cartel, but it was free back then, up until like 20 products, I think, or 15 products. And then I moved everything to Shopify. And I had left my Etsy kind of just ghostly for a few years. I hadn't paid that much attention to Etsy because I was getting enough sales through my Shopify, as I was getting views and likes on Instagram, and all the traffic was coming from here. So that's the main difference now. I have focused a lot more attention these past 2 years on Etsy because Etsy brings you traffic and you don't have to do anything. Like, as long as, like, I did still do research on SEO and how to get like all your keywords and the titles and how to make sure that you get views and that Etsy, you can promote some listings as well. I know a lot of small businesses criticize Etsy's fees, but they're bringing you traffic. And like, yes, the fees are high. There are a lot of shops out like on Etsy that sell counterfeits, which sucks. Um, but at the same time, I don't have to do anything. Etsy brings me clients, which is great. I'm not gonna, I don't have to do anything and I'm getting sales. That's awesome because it's just my Shopify. I kind of have to fight to get views and get traffic because again, I'm not doing it the right way and I'm getting all my traffic from social media. I should be advertising for real and not just like focusing on Instagram and stuff. So I do recommend Etsy.
And do you pack and ship everything by your own?
Yeah.
But it
It's
takes, it looks like it takes a lot of time, and the price of the pin is not so high. So the value that you get after you spend time on packaging and then go to the post office, everything should be signed well, and also you pay a lot of producing it and promoting it. Uh, do you sell hundreds of pins a month or?
I wish. I really wish I did. No, but I think, shipping, I don't get I don't get enough orders to justify hiring a shipping company. I wish. Maybe, I hope sometime soon that it happens. I wish I could move more inventory for sure. And also, again, I'm not like, I have a small business, but I don't have enough experience, and I have like, that's what I mean by research. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know how to advertise myself. I don't know how to sell myself well enough. I feel like my business could be a lot more successful if I knew what the hell I was doing. But I'm kind of winging it. Um, so, I rely on things that are stressful, like, oh my God, if I don't post on Instagram, I'm gonna disappear, and people are just not never gonna find my shop and never buy anything, and I'm not gonna eat this month. But it's it's like it's a you need to be sure of, like, you need to, sorry, I lost my train of thought. um, it's okay if you don't know what you're doing, as long as, like, you learning along the way is the key, honestly. um and yeah, I as far as shipping, it's not what takes up most of my time. Honestly, most of my time is taken up by emailing manufacturers right and left, dealing with lost packages sometimes, dealing with accounting, product photography. That takes up a lot of time as well. And then product description, making sure like you have enough keywords, and that, it's just, and again, I'm not the best planner. So I keep things often to the last second, and then I'm just like, ugh. But it's the same for whenever I do art. I sometimes I don't draw for like 2 months, and either one, I don't feel like it, or two is just like, after I've done all the other stuff, I'm like, no, no, I don't, just, my brain is not braining. I don't. It's definitely, but then I have times where I'm like, I can think of an entire collection. I will work nonstop from like 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. to 3 a.m. for like 2 weeks straight, and then I won't draw for another month. Like, it's very, very random like that.
Mhm. You create actually such an amazing, fun, and bold designs in your pins. And have you noticed that maybe some of these designs are more sellable, and that you really see that they high demand on some of your pins
Mm,
and rather less?
So I think I try to make things that are clever, but it's not always easy. Like my latest collection, I did the baguette that says "Life is pain," but that's also "Life is pain," so bread. And I was like, "Oh, I'm so happy! Like, this is gonna look so cool." And so this one has been good. And then, selecting like certain effects for pins is always fun. I try to add as much detail as I can in pins, because I think they're like little works of art. I don't like, no shade though, I don't like soft enamel pins or pins that are just like one color. Uh, but I understand how a lot of people love that style. I like to add so much detail to my pins, because I feel like it's like my way of painting through metal.
Yeah,
Um,
they are like a tiny piece of art, because it's
yeah,
we can see that you put a lot of attention and do them really smart
I try.
and beautiful.
Thank you. This is how, when I started, I think I was differentiating how my work um differed from other um pin artists. I think I was adding a lot more details than they were. And when I discovered screen printing, I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? You can screen print on pins as many colors as you want? That's amazing. As back in 2017, not a lot of people were doing that. So my pins had like way more details than other makers on the market, um, because everyone was still using just regular enamel. So if you wanted to add, like, if they had a pin that had a shade, or like for the shading, you could see the metal lines, and it was a lot less cool than having print. And after searching around for a bit, I was like, oh, print, you can do print, I can do anything. And then I realized you had, like, some factories you have to pay per print color, and then you also have to pay for the print mold, which is an extra cost. I was like, it's worth it. It looks so much better. So yeah, I think, I don't
So, have you
think I
noticed if there are any bestsellers in your
have.
collection?
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. Some that did very well were my little booty designs. Like, well, this is the patch version, but
It's okay.
I have the pin versions of this.
Mhm.
And I also have the keychain. I made them glow in the dark too, so if you lose your keys, you can always find them. These did pretty well, but I have a thing where like some of my products will take a while to sell out. And once they sell out, I have like this one where I'm like, oh, thank God, because I'm like, oh, thank God, I'm done with this design now. It hasn't sold. Like it took a year and a half to sell. But then I have this one person usually like reaches out and like, you don't have this anymore. It just, and then sometimes I make the mistake of like reordering because one person asked and then they never buy it. And then I'm left with this like more stock of this thing that took forever to leave my house. Um, but yeah, I don't think I have my best sellers for a while, at least like here, were the insult pins, uh because they're fun. uh and yeah, like little booty pins. And so lately my little baguettes and croissants have been doing pretty well.
And um, how do you decide what to create when you start working on the new collection? Do you take into account that this knowledge that your audience like more many fun designs
I
or something like this?
think we're in an era where we're conditioned a lot by social media, and we scroll a lot, too much, throughout the day. And I think I get influenced by what I see. So, and sometimes I don't even realize it. Um, the I don't know how I came up with my latest collection. I think it was like, oh, sometimes I just think of one design. I'm like, oh, how can I make a whole collection? Make a whole collection from this because it's going to be so cool. For my latest collection, it actually, what happened is I knew I wanted to make something French. I was like, you know what? Let's go back to my French roots. Like, let's make a French collection. And I it goes back once. So I released that, and I was really happy with how everything came out. It took me a year to like think of everything, get everything produced, because like the like different manufacturers for every single product. um and and after, like, when I saw that did well, and now it brought me back to an idea. I write everything down, which I highly suggest everyone do. If you don't already do that, I have like the notes app, and I just, whenever I have an idea, I write it down. And this so the French collection that I did, I'm like, well, now I want to do countries. Like, it's like, this is a good idea. Like, I want to do more stuff that like relates to countries, and like, you know, things from those countries that are either food or not. Though I love food. So and I actually had an idea, like I think it was in 2016 or 17, that was very similar but with pins. And I'm like, you know what? Like, this is a great opportunity to just uh, recycle an old idea with new products and new experience. And um just, yeah, I think I come up with my designs, sometimes it's just a random burst of energy, and I'm like, oh, I want to make a mushroom collection because it's going to be fall and I want mushrooms everywhere. And then it's just like mushrooms. um but yeah, the usually the collections that I do that are more like less thought out and more like a burst, those tend to do less well because they're less thought out. um like my French collection, I really spent so much time and effort creating something cohesive, and you know, just it's I focused a lot on what I wanted for it and how I could make it awesome. And eventually, what really helped was the packaging for my little baguette barrettes. Um, and now
Yeah, that's
I'm like,
so
ooh,
super
packaging.
cute. Yeah.
Thank you. I see, this is one thing I kind of stopped caring about, not caring about, but I love packaging still. And I think packaging is just, sometimes I'm a sucker for packaging. I will buy something just because the box is pretty. Like, I'm that person. um but for a while I had stopped focusing so much on packaging for my products because like I used to have different backing cards for every pin design. And I stopped doing that because I felt like people like didn't care enough. And you know, maybe when you get a pin, you throw out the card, or you're not going to leave the pin on the card. And it was like, it's costly to have different designs per per each card, like have a specific packaging. And like, you know, I'm just gonna do something like everything is gonna be the same. And I stopped thinking about it, and I think that was a mistake. So it was good to explore packaging again in my latest collection, and I'm gonna do that for my next one, which is like I just printed out a little a little sample, which clearly I am not good. I'm not good at making things, but yeah, this is gonna come soon.
It'd be very interesting to see how it turned. My last question for today, because time runs
Oh
really
yes.
fast. Looking looking back, what would you tell to your younger self when you first started this journey, when you first decided to run your own business?
Mm. Don't let anyone discourage you. If you have something in mind and you know you want to see it through, do it. Don't listen to anyone. Like you are your own master. And sometimes even if something fails, you know you have to do it. I think it's really important to it's a way to like you can never succeed if you never fail. So just like I have had a lot of failed collections and a lot of failed products, and I have had better ones, and I feel like it's just it all leads to experience. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think any designer can do anything they want. I have helped a few people actually launch their shops because they're like I saw them making stuff and I was like, oh my god, you should open a shop, like your thing, it's amazing. Like, oh, I'm not sure, it looks hard. And like, you know what, you got to do it. I think what I was missing back then was support from like family and friends and encouragement, and I had to be my own encouragement. And it's kind of tough. Like I wish I had had someone to like cheer me on and be like, hey, what you make is awesome, like I want to see it out there in the world. So you have to find someone like that. It really helps and it motivates you. And yeah, you just gotta keep doing the what you love. I think ultimately that's it. I would not do anything in the world. Like this is what I would do if I was like if I had another job, I would still do this. And I don't regret a single moment. And I don't think I could ever go back to a full-time job. I tried doing freelance for a week. I was like, oh my, the first day I was like, oh no, a desk, an office, I hate this. But sometimes you have to eat, so you got
I
to do
think
it.
I think it's so wonderful that you have so big passion to what you're doing, and I can see it in all the photos when I made the research on your website and your Instagram, all the pins, how you package them, all the photos, they're unique, and I feel a lot of energy and love that you put there. And
Thank you.
I wish you to really listen to your creative voice. And if you want to make a crazy package, do it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, and I love your work so much too, by the way. What you do is so beautiful.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, like
And thank you very much for sharing your experience. It really was very interesting to know how everything works from behind the scenes of having your own business and selling pins. And it's a small business, but it's a big deal. It's a lot of things to do, and
yeah.
running
And if anyone
everything
has
by.
any like questions or wants any advice, like I'm always happy to help. I try to do my best to like reply to messages when I get like people who need help doing things or just don't know how to go about certain things, and they're just starting out. Like I love to help. Just I think we all need a little help sometimes.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining and for sharing your experience. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks. You too.
Nice to meet you. Bye.
Bye. Nice to meet you too.
Thank you.